Liam and Chloe moved into the old house on a Tuesday. The paint was peeling, the garden was overgrown. A faint chill clung to the air, even in summer. They felt eyes on them sometimes, not unkindly, just watchful. On their third day, a knock came at the door. It was Mrs. Gable from next door. Her smile did not quite reach her eyes. She carried a box, wrapped in faded paper. "A housewarming gift," she said. Her voice was low, a little raspy, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. Inside the box was a baby monitor. It was an old model. The plastic was yellowed with age. Several buttons looked worn, used many times. Liam picked it up. It felt strangely cold to his touch. Chloe forced a polite smile. "How thoughtful," she murmured, though a shiver traced its way down her spine. Mrs. Gable just watched them. Her gaze lingered on Chloe's slightly rounded stomach. "You'll need it soon, dear," she said. The words hung in the air, heavy and unwelcome. They didn't know how she knew. Mrs. Gable spoke again. Her voice dropped lower. "This house, it remembers things." She tapped the side of her head. "It holds onto sounds, little whispers, you'll see." She did not elaborate. She simply nodded, her smile fading completely. Then she turned and left, as quickly as she had arrived. The baby monitor sat on the kitchen counter. It seemed out of place. An unwelcome guest in their new, hopeful life. They stared at it for a long moment. Liam finally picked it up again. He meant to put it in a cupboard, to hide it away, but his hand hesitated. A strange feeling washed over him, a reluctance, as if the monitor itself did not want to be moved. Chloe noticed his pause. "Let's just put it in the attic," she suggested, her voice a little too bright. "We can buy a new one later." Out of sight, out of mind, they thought, they hoped. The attic door creaked shut, leaving the monitor in the dusty darkness above. Several weeks passed. The nursery began to take shape. Pale yellow walls, a new crib unassembled in its box. They had not yet bought their own baby monitor. One evening, Chloe remembered the gifted one. "Perhaps it will do for now," she said, mostly to herself. "Just until the baby arrives." Liam felt a prickle of unease. He did not want to retrieve it, but he went to the attic anyway. The monitor was where they had left it, still cold. He brought it downstairs, his steps heavy. They plugged it in that night. The parent unit sat on their bedside table. The other part went into the empty nursery. The power light glowed a dull orange. Static hissed from the speaker, then a sound emerged. A faint, distorted lullaby. It was not a familiar tune. The melody was strange, unsettling. It rose and fell in an unnatural rhythm. "Interference," Liam said quickly. "Old electronics." He switched it off. The silence that followed felt thick, heavy, almost watchful in its own way. The next night they did not turn it on. They left it unplugged. Yet in the deep hours, Chloe awoke. The lullaby was playing again, softly but clearer this time, chillingly sweet. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She nudged Liam awake. The small screen on the parent unit flickered to life. It showed a dark, empty corner of the nursery. Then a shadow seemed to detach itself from the deeper blackness. It swayed gently, just for a moment, then it was gone. Liam snatched the plug from the wall. His hands were shaking. "This thing is broken," he declared, his voice tight. "It's going in the trash." The following morning, he threw the monitor into the large bin outside. He slammed the lid shut. A sense of relief washed over them both. That night, the house was quiet, unnaturally quiet. The silence pressed in on them. It felt different from before. It felt like something was missing, something was waiting. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window. Liam went to take the bins to the curb. He lifted the lid of the trash bin. His breath caught in his throat. The baby monitor sat on top of the garbage bags. It was clean, as if someone had carefully placed it there, not thrown, not discarded. A cold dread seeped into his bones. He stared at it. He did not want to touch it, but he knew he had to. He brought it back inside, his mind reeling with confusion and a growing fear. Chloe saw it on the counter. Her face lost all color. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." They did not speak for a long time. Then Liam made a decision. "We have to destroy it," he said, his voice grim. He took the monitor to the shed in the back garden. He found a heavy hammer. He brought it down again and again. The plastic shattered, the circuits broke, but the pieces still felt wrong, still unnervingly cold. He gathered the fragments and buried them deep in the soil under the old oak tree. That evening, new sounds began, faint scratches coming from the nursery walls, a soft rhythmic scraping, like tiny fingernails dragging across plaster. It stopped, then started again. Later they heard it, a child's hushed weeping. It was not coming from any device. It seemed to emanate from the very air in the nursery, from the empty spaces, from the shadows in the corners. The room felt colder than the rest of the house, a deep, sorrowful chill. The next day, the parent unit of the baby monitor was on their bedside table. It was whole, unbroken, not a scratch on it, as if it had never been touched by a hammer. The screen was active, it showed the nursery, but there was something new. A rocking chair, one they did not own, sat in the center of the room. It swayed gently back and forth, on its own, and from the speaker the eerie lullaby played softly, a haunting, persistent tune that refused to be silenced. Desperate for answers, Chloe began to research the house's history. She spent hours at the local library, poring over dusty records and old newspapers. She found a series of articles from decades ago about a previous owner, a young woman named Ilara Vance, a young mother. There had been a tragedy. The reports were brief, vague, filled with an unnerving sense of unspoken sorrow. The house had belonged to Ilara, this very house. The words grief and loss appeared often. They decided to visit the town's small historical society. An elderly librarian, Miss Periwinkle, greeted them. Her eyes were kind, but held a deep sadness. When Chloe mentioned Ilara Vance, Miss Periwinkle nodded slowly. She remembered Ilara. She spoke in hushed tones, as if afraid of waking a sleeping sorrow. Ilara had lost her baby, she explained, a sudden, swift illness. No one understood it. The house, Miss Periwinkle said, was never the same after that. Ilara became a recluse, lost in her grief. The librarian continued her story. Ilara, she said, developed an obsession. She could not let go of her child. She kept the nursery exactly as it had been, pristine, untouched. She would spend hours in there talking to the empty crib, singing to it. Miss Periwinkle paused, then added a chilling detail. Ilara had a special baby monitor, a gift, much like theirs. She kept it on always listening for a sound that would never come, always watching an empty space. Ilara Vance died in the house, alone. The official cause of death was listed as natural causes, but the townspeople whispered otherwise. Some said she died of a broken heart, pure, unadulterated grief. Others hinted at darker things, unseen influences within the old walls. The baby monitor, Miss Periwinkle concluded, was her last connection to her lost child, her only comfort, or perhaps her constant, unyielding torment. The words settled heavily in the quiet room. Liam and Chloe finally understood. The knowledge was a cold weight in their stomachs. The baby monitor was not just an object, it was a conduit, a vessel. It held Ilara's profound sorrow, her unending, desperate vigil for her lost child. They tried everything they could think of to cleanse the house. They burned sage, the smoke curling into every corner. They recited prayers they half remembered from childhood. Nothing worked. The eerie lullaby persisted, a constant mournful soundtrack to their lives. They tried to sell the house. They put up a sign. They spoke to estate agents, but there were no buyers. Word had spread through the small town. Whispers of a haunted place, a house saturated with sadness, a place where grief had taken root and refused to leave. They were trapped financially, emotionally, and the monitor, it always reappeared, sometimes on the changing table in the nursery, sometimes beside their bed, its screen glowing faintly in the dark, watching, listening. The images on the small screen became clearer over time, more defined. They would see a woman's silhouette, tall and slender, standing in the nursery, humming the haunting lullaby. Sometimes she seemed to be rocking an unseen child in her arms. Her sorrow was palpable. It filled their home. It seeped into their dreams, turning them into fractured nightmares. It shadowed their waking hours, casting a pall over everything. The joy of their impending parenthood was tainted with an inescapable dread. They live with the ghost now, with Ilara, with her sorrow, with the unending lullaby. The baby monitor is a permanent fixture in their home, a constant, chilling reminder of a mother's love that became a shadow, a grief that never sleeps, that never fades. The house remembers, just as Mrs. Gable had warned. And now it makes them remember too, every day, every night, forever. The silence is never truly silent. It is always waiting for the music to begin again.